tell you a story, if I can. I just heard this story. And I was in Baltimore, right?
It's not printed yet, right?
No, just came out. I just heard it. Actually, just happened. So here's Hashgacha, right? Here's that divine providence. A rabbi from Beit Shemesh, who I know, for like 20 years. He has a kollel, Yerushalayim. And he's the same house, Frank Storch, in Baltimore, and he ends up in the same house with me. And so we're both in Beit Shemesh, both in Baltimore. A group of a Chabad school from Crown Heights is there. Girls from Crown Heights are there with their teachers. So all these different things, and the story happened to Gan Yerushalayim. So all these different elements come together. 5 minutes we have to speak to this group of girls from Crown Heights. And what's the story? This guy who just recently went through a tough divorce, and his father calls him up one day and he says, "Listen, I need you to drive me to Akko, to my sister's visiting Akko. Could you take me?" He's like, and so it's going to take me hours to get there and hours to get back, and how am I going to, you learn the next day, but he's like, Kabbalah Savicha Vasimecha, it's a mitzvah to do that. The Man Yerichin Yamecha, good reward. Anyways, he says, Dad, he says, I'm going to do it. So he drives his father to Akko, and his father's visiting his sister for a few hours, and finally, 10 to 11, they're leaving the house. He's coming to his car, and he sees a cop ticketing his car. He's like, I can't believe this. Here I am, doing this big mitzvah, and this guy is ticketing my car.
It's an old kasha.
So he goes over to the cop, he says to the cop, Chaver shali, he says, my friend, why are you doing this? There's no signs, there's nothing wrong, why are you ticketing me? So the cop says, dude, look at this, that your car is sticking out 6 inches into the red. You're in the blue, and he's like, yeah, but there's a line. He says, Chaver shali, my buddy, there's a law in the Gemara, Ruba Kakula. If the majority is in, then that's to the cop. So the cop is the real Gemara head himself. He goes, yeah, but if I shave off the front of your car, he says, then you're not going anywhere. So it's like a din of, it's a chaticha or l'skavivay. It's a real piece that's like a serious study. The cop is like a major Talmud Chacham over here, major Torah scholar, and they're both back and forth. The cop's like, I'm giving you a ticket. So the cop gives him a ticket, 500 shekel. Okay, he has no choice. But he can't understand what's going on over here. He's like, here he's doing this great act of, kavod to see his father, and what's his reward? 500 shekel fine. So he pays the fine the next day. A few days later, he gets a piece of mail, and he's summoned to court. Why? His ex-wife claims, the lawyer for his ex-wife claims that he was there a few days ago harassing her and wouldn't leave, and harassing the kids and wouldn't leave. So he's like, that's crazy. I wasn't there. It's not true, and it's a lie. And, by the way, I have proof because I was in Akko that night. So he goes to the court the next day and he says to the judge, I'm supposed to be in a few weeks, that's the day of the hearing, but I just want to tell you the whole thing is not true. I have proof. So the judge is also a Gemara cup. The judge says, I see proof that your car was in Akko, he says, but I don't see proof that you were in Akko. So the guy's like, well, that's a good point, Your Honor. However, I had a very interesting conversation with the cop who gave me the ticket, and I'm sure he's going to remember me. So the judge says, fine, tomorrow I'm going to bring him from Akko to Jerusalem, and if he remembers you, you're good to go. And I'm going to throw the book at the lawyer and the ex-wife. But if not, you're in trouble. So the next day he comes back to the court, and the policeman comes, and the judge says to the cop, do you remember this guy? And the cop's like, he looks at him, he goes, Chaver shali, he says, Ruba Kakula, he says to him. Okay, so the judge is like, you're good to go, thank you very much. A few weeks later, he gets a check in the mail from the lawyer's office for 300,000 shekel. That's the story. And he says, here I'm all worried, right? And all the reward for 500 shekel, fine. And what's God saying to me? Don't worry so much. I got it under control, 300,000 shekel, baby. You're good to go. Now, this is a story. What you were saying reminded me of this idea, but you're not supposed to do it for the reward. But then Hashem says in the Torah, hey, if you honor your parents, great reward is coming your way. So we get mixed messages over here. It's
like your father wants to give you everything, and you say, no, you don't have to. So now you're both being nice. So he offers the reward because he's nice. And you say, I'm willing to do it anyways. Why? Because I want serving you is enough of a reward. Like the Baal Shem, if I could serve God without a reward, that's the best thing of all. There you go. Right. Right, but again, that all comes back to our original thing of why does God need that, and that we don't know. Yeah, so one more very important point. If a man says, coming from a marriage counselor, if a man says, I want to marry you for your money, not a good deal? I'm just going to ask you a question before I answer you.
do you find that men marry women for their money more than for their looks? Because you keep on bringing that up as an example.
No.
Okay, just asking. Let's go back to your question.
What's wrong with that?
If he says to a person, well, because you're marrying her for something which could disappear in a second. It's short-sighted.
Okay. But it might be a good investment.
It may be.
Right.
You're taking a risk. You're taking a gamble.
The real problem
Are you a gambler?
No.
You got to know when to hold them.
The real problem is when he says, I want to marry you for your money.
That's a contradiction.
It's a contradiction. I don't
want
to marry you.
You want to marry the money.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, the conclusion of that is, if I want to marry you for your money, the real bottom line statement is, if you must come along with the money, okay. But if I could get your money without you, would be even better. If we're doing mitzvahs in order to get to Gan Eden, the bottom line comes out.
As long as we get to Gan Eden.
If I could get to Gan Eden without your mitzvahs, it would be even better.
Which means without God.
Yes. And that we have to fight against.
Right, because we want to do it just because of Hashem. We want to marry Hashem for Hashem and not for the mitzvahs and not for the reward.
Amen to that.
That's the.
So here's what it turns out to be. He needs us.
We don't know what.
Unconditionally.
But unconditionally meaning he really needs us.
Yes. And that's why it engenders in us that kind of a response. I'm a Jew no matter what.
Why? Why does it engender in us that
Because
response?
if that's how he's treating us,
like, I really need you, so then we really, really need him. Okay.
Unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're still together.
Well, I mean, I thought we were still together because God kind of set himself up that he could never get rid of us.
And we don't want to get rid of him.
No, but I'm saying he forced himself.
What does that mean?
That means that he held the mountain over our heads. He forced us into the relationship, which basically forced him to never let us go.
Right. He locked himself
into it.
So what he was really telling us is not behave or I'll kill you.
Right.
He's saying I can't take no for an answer.
And
that's
it. And you're forever and ever, and I can never let you go unless it's Purim when you basically say I want a divorce, and that's it. Other than that, I will never ever let you go.
What's Purim?
Purim story, but the Purim story when they're sitting at the Suda of the meal of Achashverosh, and basically they're saying we're celebrating the fact we're never going back to Jerusalem. That's what he's saying. We want a divorce. We're not interested anymore. If you want a divorce, then that's it. It's over. But other than that one time, we never find an example of us coming close to being completely destroyed, because God forced himself, as it were, from the beginning of time when he gave us the Torah to keep us forever.
You know the story of Yossel Rockover?
Which one? Which story?
It's a fiction, I think. The Last Will and Testament of Yossel Rockover. Never read that?
I don't know.
It's an amazing. Somebody found a note in a bottle.
Okay.
In the Warsaw Ghetto, after it was all over.
Mm-hmm.
In a bottle it said like this: The Last Will and Testament of Yossel Rockover. Fictitious, whatever.
Okay.
But listen to the point of the story. He writes like this: The fighting has ended. Everybody's dead. I'm bleeding and I'm dying. We're out of bullets. We have nothing. That's it. It's all over. And he describes the whole horror of the whole thing. And then he says like this: Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe, you did your awesome best to get me to abandon you. And with my last breath, I want you to know you failed. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Where does that awesome indestructibility come from? It can't start with us. It must start with him. And we're reflecting it.
We reflect his need. Yeah. He needs it, so we need it. That's what you're saying.
And with him it's unconditional?
So it's this letter reminds me of a fictional piece somebody wrote. There was a book of dramatized accounts of famous things that happened in history. So it's written about the Makos from the perspective of Paro's slave, and he's writing. He writes. He's like, I don't understand what we're thinking. He says, it's not as if we don't agree with Paro. He says, because every time he makes one of his big speeches, we all rally. So what? Because if we didn't agree with him, then he'd be assassinated. We do agree with him, but why do we? We don't know. And he says, and he describes all the makos, and it's like crazy, like blood in your water and frogs in your bed, and it just doesn't make any sense. And clearly there's some great being in control over here, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says at the end, he goes, well, tonight we're going to find out the truth, he says, one way or another. It's good my slave can ride in this unnatural darkness, he says. We're going to find out soon enough. I happen to be a firstborn myself. That's the end of the letter, right? So it's kind of reminds me of, it's very good, right? Yeah, it was written, like, published in like the 70s, or a guy from England wrote this book. It's full of, it's a very good book.
Very original.
Yeah.